Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the TikTok ban, but specifically the TikTok ban according to Polymarket, which is a betting app that people can go and bet on everyday life situations such as the presidential election, the TikTok ban, etc. Now there's several different categories we are going to speak about in this video, such as the TikTok being banned, the Supreme Court issuing the 90-day extension period, TikTok being banned by the end of the year, etc. Now, the reason this is important is because this Polymarket successfully predicted the presidential election for 2025, which was President-elect Donald Trump. It successfully predicted that back during the presidential election. So I feel like it's a pretty good source because it's real people like you and me putting their own money into something, whether they think it's going to win or lose. And I feel like that's a pretty good indication of what is going on. So that is what we're going to talk about today in this video. Super interesting. We're going to get through this in hopefully about 5-10 minutes. So stick with me here. Let's talk about it. And then you can let me know if you think TikTok is going to get banned in the comment section and why. And we can discuss it over there. So let me know what you think in the comments. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any news, updates, tea, gossip, all of that. And let's get into it. Okay, before I get into the graphs and anything like that, let's talk about what essentially happened in the Supreme Court and what other creators and lawyers are saying at this point about the TikTok ban. If you don't want to hear this part, you can skip until the graph part. You're more than welcome to do that. But I feel like this is important if you don't really have a grasp of what's going on, especially after the Supreme Court today. This is going to be important for you to hear. So today, the Supreme Court heard arguments from TikTok and from the government, as well as TikTok creators had a lawyer that also spoke at the Supreme Court today as well. Honestly, he did the best of all three of them. I personally thought it went pretty well, but we have other creators, large creators, that don't think it went quite as well. I will put one of their videos that I'll watch quite often here, and I will tag him in the description of this video as well, but this is what he had to say.
We have some breaking news right now. The United States TikTok ban arguments have just concluded. Here's everything you need to know. As a top line, if TikTok is banned, you could find me on Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, and Substack. All are linked in my bio. From a legal perspective, this did not go that well for TikTok. The justices seem poised to uphold the TikTok ban bill. They seemed very unsure about the First Amendment concerns that were raised by both TikTok and the creators. And it's interesting, it's not a liberal versus conservative breakdown here. Justice Gorsuch, for example, seemed more sympathetic toward TikTok, while Justice Jackson and Justice Kagan really did not seem as sympathetic to the First Amendment arguments. Now, ultimately, no one knows how the Supreme Court is going to rule. They really have 9 days before the TikTok ban goes into effect. And there are 3 possible rulings. Number 1, they uphold the ban. Number 2, they strike down the ban. Or number 3, they issue what is called an injunction, pausing the ban, kind of like President-elect Donald Trump wants. As soon as we get more information, I will let you know. But as it stands right now, the Supreme Court is poised, in my opinion, to uphold the ban. Follow along for more.
Now, my personal opinion, I thought it went really well. I thought the government's lawyer kept going around in circles, and I thought TikTok made a good argument about how Temu, if it was about national security, Temu would also be gone as well, because Temu takes just as much information, if not more, than TikTok does from their users as well. So I thought that was a pretty good argument, but honestly, the Supreme Court, I feel like they are made to not show reactions, to not show how they're feeling, to not show favoritism one way or another. So I really think it's hard to determine what they are thinking from today's arguments. But again, that is why we are going to look at the graph, because this is going to tell us what people such as you and me are thinking about how this went. And it's very interesting to see past betting from like days and days ago to what has happened since the end of the Supreme Court argument. So we're going to take a look at those graphs, because this is going to give us a good indication of where everyday people like you and me feel and stand, especially after the Supreme Court hearing. So I'm going to play you a little piece of the Supreme Court hearing. If I can find a little segment of it, I will play it now, and then we'll get into the graphs.
What happens after January 19th if you lose this case? Can you just spell that out?
At least as I understand it, we go dark. Essentially, the platform shuts down.
Unless there's a divestiture.
Unless there's a divestiture, unless
Presidential
President
extension.
Trump exercises his authority to extend it by night. But he can't do that on January 19th. On January 19th, we still have President Biden. And on January 19th, as I understand it, we shut down. It is possible that come January 20th, 21st, 22nd, we might be in a different world. One, the app is not available in the app stores. That's at a minimum. But in addition, what the Act says is that all of the other types of service providers can't provide service either. Now, there's enormous consequences for violating that for the service providers. So essentially, what they're going to say is that, I think, we're not going to be providing the services necessary to have you see it. So it's essentially going to stop operating.
This is the first graph we're going to look at, which is just TikTok is banned in the U.S. before May of 2025. Now, keep in mind that this is supposed to go into effect on January 19th. Now, it can be pushed out 3 months, so January, February, March, April. That's why it's saying May of 2025, because it is giving it that leeway period if they do extend it 3 months. But right now, the U.S. Americans that are betting on Polymarket says a 73% chance that TikTok will get banned, meaning most people don't have much hope. But here is the crazy part. This was probably an hour and a half ago. Now, this is the even crazier part. This is just from about 12:54 to 1:50. Now, the arguments ended around 12:31. Look at the people. It's like yes. Several people say no because it's gone down, and then it goes back up, then goes down, and it's now going back up. So I feel like people afterwards are hearing different things, and they're kind of going 50-50 because it went down, now it's up, now it's down, now it's going back up a little bit, and this is right after the Supreme Court hearing ended. But I think it's also very telling that people are hearing what people are hearing, what people are talking about, and giving their input, because it's gone from 74% to 71%, which is huge, but it's also up 14% since they updated this the last time. Let me go back so I don't confuse you though. This was taken, the screenshot was taken around 2 o'clock when it's sitting at 73%. And this one was taken at around 3 o'clock just a few minutes ago, and it's sitting at 71%. So it has gone down 2% in the past hour of people voting that no, it's not going to get banned. But still sits at 71% of yes, it will get banned. Now, this one is interesting because this one was, will TikTok get banned in 2025? Meaning by the end of December of 2025, will we have TikTok? And 74% of people said no, but this was as an hour ago. I just pulled it up on my computer before I started making this, and it is now down to 67% say yes. So it has gone down pretty significantly in the past hour of people saying no, it won't be banned in 2025. Which honestly is a pretty big jump in an hour. I think people are honestly all over the place though, which that can mean nothing. Again, this is real people like you and me that are betting on this. This is not like an indication of if this is going to happen or not, but it did successfully predict the 2025 presidential election. Now, here's an interesting one as well. Will the Supreme Court delay a TikTok ban? Meaning, will they give us that 90-day period to figure something out, to give Trump time to figure something out? Will they give us that 90 days? 22% of people say yes, meaning most people are thinking no, they're not going to. It went from 22% to 28%, so it has gone up 6%. 6% people are saying yes, it will get at least delayed. Honestly, I am hoping for at least a delay because I think Trump can figure something out with a delay. But people are changing their mind. Look at this graph here. This is in the past hour. So this is from 2:15 to 3:10 after it's been over. People have had time to look up what people are saying, time to think about it, and it has gone up, flattened out, and is now going up again. So people are changing their mind that there could potentially be a delay. For fun, let's take a look at this. This is from an hour ago. So if you were to bet, yes, TikTok is going to get banned by May of 2025, it was at 71 cents, which means if you put $100 down, you are only going to win $40.85. But if you were to bet no, and that would win, $100 would win you $232.53 because you have to minus the 100 you're putting in. So significantly people are thinking yes, it is going to get banned. But I would love to know if you would bet yes or no, and how much money would you put down on it? How confident are you? Would you put a couple dollars, or would you put a couple $1,000s? Let me know in the comments, because I'm super curious to know what people would actually put down amount-wise on yes or no. Let's be honest though, we really don't know what is going to happen, because we have some creators like the first guy that felt very, that it was gone, that didn't feel very confident. But since I've been making this video, he has made another video that I'm going to play you here in a minute, as well as another guy that I follow very religiously, that is also a lawyer that feels pretty positive about the TikTok ban as well. And I'll play his video as well, because honestly, we have no idea. We have no idea. We have no way of knowing until Monday, which is when they have decided to come back. I don't know if we'll have a decision Monday, but that is when we are going to get the next updates. But here are those two videos, because this is very interesting, especially the guy that has kind of changed his tune since immediately after the Supreme Court hearing. So here they are.
There are some positive takeaways from today's Supreme Court oral arguments around the TikTok ban that you need to know about. Number one, not every justice seemed inclined to ban TikTok. Justice Gorsuch, for example, seemed to be firmly on TikTok's side. But not just that, there were multiple justices who seemed inclined to grant what is called an administrative stay. An administrative stay would allow the Supreme Court more time to decide this issue in this case, which is extremely complex and has extreme public importance. And more time would bleed this into the Trump administration. Now, Donald Trump has said that he wants to save TikTok. He filed an amicus brief asking for a delay. And one key point that was asked during the oral arguments was, say Trump says to his Department of Justice, don't enforce the ban, what happens next? And there really wasn't a clear answer on this. All that's to say is that right now there are a lot of lingering questions. We don't know what will happen on January 19th. We don't know what the Supreme Court is going to rule. We don't know what Donald Trump is going to do. We don't know if President Biden is going to sign a 90-day extension. We don't know. And when we do know, I'll let you know. So as always, follow along for all the news you need to know about. More to come.
I'll preface this by saying I'm in the minority on this from what I've seen. But unlike a lot of other lawyers in this app, I don't think the January 19th is going to be the end day. Tax lawyers did a pretty nice job of hitting on some of the points, and then I think Jeffrey Fisher, the attorney arguing on behalf of the creators, I thought did a really nice job with almost every answer. It just seemed pretty obvious there's really only two very clear votes that, at least upon hearing, seemed to be Gorsuch voting in favor of TikTok and Jackson voting in favor of the government. Sotomayor at times seemed to flip. She started out very against TikTok and seemed at least somewhat hesitant to say that the law did not do a content and viewpoint restriction. Kagan asked questions that really kind of led itself toward both sides, but the history of her career and what she did prior to being a justice suggests she will likely vote to affirm. Roberts can typically go kind of either way. He asked a couple questions, and those questions were not awesome for TikTok, so my guess he probably affirms as well. Kavanaugh, as he traditionally does, seemed absolutely annoyed and bored and bothered that he even had to go to work today, but it seemed a little bit based on the questions he asked, and although this is never an indicator based on the nonverbals, or rather verbals, I guess, since it's audio, but what I imagine the nonverbals to be, I think he would vote to reverse. Thomas also, as per usual, said virtually nothing, and then I thought was going to set a personal record when he talked for like a solid 2.5 minutes straight. In this particular case, no idea what he's going to do. Ellen Barrett seemed surprisingly skeptical of both sides. He has said some things in the past that indicate she might vote in favor of the government. She also seemed healthily skeptical of some of the things the government was claiming. Alito pronounced Meta as Meta, so that's not great. Along those lines, I should point out, at one point, Roberts went, and I think, is it ByteDance? Is that? Alito seems to be of the opinion that this algorithm, and any algorithm, can be easily reconstructed. Again, I was surprised that no one brought up that although, yes, you can imitate or copy or produce something similar to what we have here, you can't reproduce the time and the energy and the resources and the amount that it takes in order to build a community. A lot of things that you can replicate or redo doesn't mean that you can actually do it. And in the last few minutes of the argument, they started asking a lot of questions about what it would mean if they put an injunction in. And that, I think, is likely where we'll finish. And the most likely thing that happens is that they issue some sort of an injunction, some sort of an administrative stay, and they basically punt the issue, which would not be unusual because at the end of the day, there was quite a few lines of questionings and comments that suggested that they would need to decide whether the algorithm or whether an algorithm itself qualifies as speech. Court has punted on that exact issue, I think, 5+ times in the last few years. They are not comfortable answering that, partly because they don't know the answer to that. So I think the most likely option here, the most likely outcome, is that they'll say, we're gonna take some time to figure this out, and then I think they're gonna hope that the next administration figures it out for them so that they don't have to answer a question that they really don't want to answer. Oh, and at one point Kagan said, I mean, couldn't ByteDance just put the whole algorithm up on open source and then that would solve the problem? But never forget that that is what we're dealing with here. The average age of the Supreme Court is 65. Means if you're doing the numbers at home, that means they were likely in law school at the time the internet was invented. I think we all know that 1983 is not really when the internet started. You know what I mean?
Okay, that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope that made things a little clearer, maybe less clear, I don't know. Honestly, to be honest, none of us know really what is going to happen with TikTok. We are just here to ride along this together because there's nothing we can do about it at this point, and other than hope and pray that it doesn't go away. So if it does go away, I will be here on YouTube from here on out. So make sure to subscribe button so you don't miss anything, any news, any updates from me, and I will see you next time. Love you. Bye.